Hello Indy 500 fans, welcome to Formula Pun Racer, the channel where car racing and comedy collide. I'm just here in my hotel room in Indianapolis, having enjoyed a nice fun day for the final practice day of racing before the Indy 500, they call Carb Day, as well as the pit stop competition that occurred an hour after the final practice wrapped up. And in the final practice, it was Scott Dixon of Chip Ganassi who was the fastest. And spoiler alert, for those who are wondering who won the pit stop competition, it was last year's Indy 500 winner Joseph Newgarden. But it's already been quite a stir of events leading up to this Indianapolis 500. And unfortunately, the threat of rain is pretty great. So, for the first time since 2007, rain might postpone the race. But only time will tell.
Aww.
But it's also been quite crazy for Kyle Larson, the 2021 NASCAR champion, who is racing in the Indy 500 and is also planning to do the double duty rounds, aka racing the Indy 500 and the 600-mile race in Charlotte, North Carolina for the stock cars later on Sunday. It's something that has been going on since 1994, starting with John Andretti. But it was only Tony Stewart in 2001 who was able to complete all 500 miles in Indianapolis and all 600 miles in Charlotte in 2001. But so far, nobody has won either one in the same year. Kurt Busch is the last driver to have raced in both the Indy 500 and the 600-mile race in Charlotte, North Carolina in the same year in 2014. I forget where he finished in Charlotte in 2014, but at the Indianapolis 500, he finished 6th for Andretti Global. Quite an accomplishment for Kurt, and he hasn't raced in the Indy 500 since. So Kyle Larson, 2021 NASCAR champion, is trying out for his first Indy 500 before flying down to Charlotte, but if rain delays the race, who knows who might have to take over the seat from him or withdraw completely. But if the race is postponed long enough, probably into the next day, it's possible Kyle could come back from Charlotte to race the Indy 500 with no disruptions, especially with his full-time commitment to NASCAR. But at the same time, it has been difficult for the one person who failed to qualify for this event, Nolan Siegel of Dale Coyne Racing. The young 19-year-old, well, his car just wasn't fast enough. In practice, he flipped his primary car over, but he wasn't hurt. But on the final qualifying round, his team had to use a road course configured car set up to look speedway configured for the final round, and even then it just wasn't fast enough. And to add insult to injury, just 2 laps into his final qualifying run before the gun went off, he crashed. Not hurt, but that was it. Nolan was definitely bummed about it. But there you have it. This has been quite a year for the Indy 500, especially with, for the first time since 1988, an entire team has locked out the front row. And ironically, it's the same team that did so back in 1988, Team Penske. They are starting 1, 2, 3. And also, just like in 1988, they're doing it with Chevy power. So in 1988, it was Rick Mears on pole, Danny Sullivan second, and the defending winner of the time, Al Unser Sr., starting third. And coincidentally enough, last year's Indy 500 winner Joseph Newgarden is starting in third, just like Al Unser Sr. did. And Scott McLaughlin is going to lead the charge with Australia's Will Power in second. But at the same time, here's a look at the traditional 33 starters of this year's Indianapolis 500. The field average speed is 231.943 miles per hour, slightly slower than last year's record of 232.184 miles per hour. Starting in the last row in 33rd position is Graham Rahal, son of 1986 Indy winner Bobby Rahal. Last year he was bumped out of the field but was brought in to replace an injured Stefan Wilson at Brian Reinbold. Ironically, he ended up starting last as well. In the center of the last row is 2022 Indy 500 winner Marcus Ericsson of Sweden. Last year he came quite close in becoming a back-to-back winner but was beat by Joseph Newgarden. This year, Marcus and his team have been struggling to find speed at Indy. On the inside is England's Catherine Legg in her 4th start. Last year she was the first race's retirement when she crashed her car in pit lane. On the outside of row 10 is Pietro Fittipaldi of Brazil. He's the grandson of 2-time Formula One world champion and 2-time Indy 500 winner Emerson Fittipaldi. This is Pietro's 2nd start after being absent for the past 2 years. After 4 consecutive seasons with Ed Carpenter Racing, Noblesville native Connor Daly starts with the Indy 500 only team Dreyer and Reinbold Racing. Christian Lundgaard of Denmark starts his third Indy 500. Last year in Toronto, Canada, he took his first win, making him the first Danish IndyCar race winner. So far, his best finish this season is third on Indy's road course. In row 9, on the outside, is Swedish rookie Linus Lundqvist and is the 2022 Indy Lights champion. That year, he took 5 wins with Dale Coyne Racing, but this year he starts his first Indy 500 with Chip Ganassi. Swiss-born Frenchman Romain Grosjean has spent 12 seasons in Formula 1 before switching to IndyCar in 2021. Unfortunately, last year was a time he'd like to forget as it had bad results. Now driving for Juncos Hollinger Racing, Romain hopes to return his luck around like the Phoenix. British rookie Tom Blomqvist is the son of 1984 World Rally champion Stig Blomqvist of Sweden. Most of Tom's racing career has been in Formula E and IMSA racing. Last year, he was hired part-time by Meyershank Racing to replace Simon Pagenaud. This year, he's full-time with the team. Row 8 consists of 2 sophomores and 1 rookie. The other Danish driver in the field is last year's Indy's NXT champion, rookie Christian Rasmussen. He won the NXT championship that year with Dale Coyne Racing. This year, he's with Ed Carpenter Racing. Back in January, he won the Daytona 24-hour race in the LMP2 class with Era Motorsport. Stingray Robb of AJ Foyt Racing starts in the center. He is the 2020 Indy Pro 2000 champion and was runner-up in the 2022 Indy Lights Championship. Argentina's Agustin Canapino starts in 22nd place. Last year, he took a scary ride in the final laps of the race when he crashed into the rear of Patricio Ward. Fortunately, both drivers walked away. 2 winners and 1 veteran occupy row 7. On the outside is 2008 Indy 500 winner Scott Dixon of New Zealand. 6 times before, he has been crowned IndyCar champion, but his chances to win a second Indy 500 has been constantly dashed by bad luck. Winning in Long Beach in April, though, has boosted his confidence to get ahead. Helio Castroneves has won the Indianapolis 500 4 times. This Brazilian racing legend also has taken part ownership in Meyershank Racing as he continues his quest to become the first driver to win this race a 5th time. On the inside of row 7 is Marco Andretti, grandson of 1969 Indy winner Mario Andretti. This is Marco's 19th start in the greatest spectacle in racing. 2 rookies and another Indy veteran have qualified in row 6. On the outside is Kyffin Simpson of Chip Ganassi Racing. He's the first Cayman Islander to race in IndyCar. Kyffin is the reigning European Le Mans Series champion in the LMP2 division. He, along with James Allen and Alex Lynn, won 2 races with Algarve Pro Racing on the way to becoming champion. Ed Carpenter sits in the center. 3 times before, Ed has been pole sitter, but unfortunately the best he could manage so far has been 2nd in 2018. Last year he finished 20th. Marcus Armstrong of New Zealand started last year at Chip Ganassi racing at only the road and street courses, but with him going full-time in 2024, this will be the Kiwi's first Indy 500 start. Earlier this month, he got his best IndyCar finish so far by finishing 5th on the Indy road course. The outside of row 5 sees the return of Callum Ilott after he was without a full-time ride in 2024. He has been hired by Arrow McLaren to drive the number 6 after original driver David Malukas was injured in a bicycling accident. Last year he took 2 5th-place finishes with Juncos Hollinger Racing. Starting in 14th position is last year's Indy 500 pole sitter and reigning IndyCar champion Alex Palou of Spain. He put on a stellar performance in the first stages of the race, but a tangle in the pits with Rinus VeeKay cost him the win and finished 4th. Despite that, Alex won 5 races to claim his 2nd IndyCar championship. He also won the latest round this year on Indy's road course. 13th spot sits Colton Hurd of Andretti Global. 9th place was where he finished last year, and this year so far he has finished no worse than 8th place. 2 months ago, he won the 12 Hours of Sebring in a Wayne Taylor Racing Acura, sharing driving duties with Louis Delatraz and Jordan Taylor. 2 winners and a 3-time starter make up row 4. Starting in the 12th spot is Ryan Hunter-Reay of Dreyer and Reinbold Racing. 10 years ago, he narrowly beat Helio Castroneves to win the race in the 2nd closest finish in Indy 500 history. The center of row 4 is occupied by Kyle Kirkwood of Andretti Global. Last year, he scored his maiden IndyCar victory in Long Beach. But at Indy, he tangled with Felix Rosenqvist in turn 2 and was flipped upside down and slid down the backstretch. Luckily, Kyle walked away without a scratch. In 10th position is two-time Indy 500 winner Takuma Sato of Japan, driving part-time for Rahal Letterman Lanigan. His first Indy 500 win in 2017, driving then for Andretti Global, was also a close battle with Helio Castroneves. His second Indy win came in 2020 with his present team. The outside of row 3 is occupied by Felix Rosenqvist of Sweden driving for Meyershank Racing. The center is occupied by Pato O'Ward of Mexico driving for Arrow McLaren. Earlier this year, he won the first race of the season in St. Petersburg by default after the initial winner Joseph Newgarden was disqualified for illegally using his push-to-pass. The inside of row 3 is occupied by Rinus VK of the Netherlands driving for Ed Carpenter Racing. Starting in 6th position is Santino Ferrucci of AJ Foyt Racing. Last year, he took his best IndyCar career finish of 3rd at the Indianapolis 500. In 5th spot is Kyle Larson, the 2021 NASCAR champion driving for Team Hendrick Motorsport and is also driving for Arrow McLaren in association with Hendrick. He is hoping, just like John Andretti, Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart, and Robbie Gordon, to follow in their footsteps as an Indy 500 racer who will fly down to Charlotte for the NASCAR 600-mile race later that day. The inside of row 2 is occupied by 2016 Indy 500 winner Alexander Rossi, also of Arrow McLaren. The first row is completely occupied by Team Penske. In the 3rd spot is last year's Indy 500 winner Joseph Newgarden, who won the race on a last-lap duel with Marcus Ericsson by passing him on the final lap. The 2nd spot is occupied by 2018 winner Will Power of Australia. He has yet to win the pole in the Indy 500, in contrast to his New Zealander teammate, the pole sitter Scott McLaughlin. 5 IndyCar wins to his credit. If Scott McLaughlin were to win today, he would be the first Kiwi since Scott Dixon to win, and McLaughlin has set the fastest pole record of 234.220 miles per hour. And that, everyone, is the Indianapolis starting grid for 2024. 33 drivers. 8 of these drivers have won before, 6 of them are starting for the first time, but only one of these drivers will be victorious at the end of 200 laps. Or will it be 200? Will the rain stay away? We'll have to tune in to find out. But all the same, this is going to be an exciting race, one that is going to be remembered in many different ways. Tune in to find out how it goes down. I'll see you at the Indianapolis 500. I'm Aaron Cylinder, firing on all cylinders.